I came up in like the last of the old style music business, you know what I mean? So I know what it's like to make records to tape, you know, and I know what it's like to have old school management and A&R and all that kind of stuff. You know, it was, I caught the tail end of it. I was indeed very lucky.
I first encountered Jane Monheit's music in the early 2000s. I had loved show tunes and great American songbook music all my life, but I didn't know many contemporary jazz singers at that time. Amazon kept recommending her music to me, and I loved the clips that I heard. I moved to Interlaken, Switzerland in 2003 after college, and when I was visiting a record store in a neighboring town called Thun, I happened upon her CD. I had a choice between her or Stacey Kent, and I chose Jane.
When I started out, it was not pretty. I was very young, and I was very green. I was very naive in terms of like, you know, I trusted everyone. I thought everybody was great. And they had me half naked at my first photo shoot before I even knew what was going on. And I didn't know I was allowed to say no. You know, stuff like that. Like, and I could have said no and they would have said, okay, honey. But I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? It was just like kind of a perfect storm of like, oh, this kid's gonna let us sexualize her, let's do it. And me not realizing I could say no. Stuff. I was scared. I was green and I had no guidance around me. No one. I had one person. I had Peter Aldridge of the New York Voices, who was the only voice teacher I ever had. And he was really the only person I had with any kind of guidance. He was male. So it was kind of a rough beginning as a young woman.
The decision to buy her album that day was a pretty life-changing choice. It was an album called Come Dream With Me, and she was playing with a small jazz combo. She was one of the first vocalists that I paid attention to that had real improvisational chops. A lot of the albums I listened to at that point veered towards more lush string arrangements, even my Ella CDs. Jane was a formidable artist in her own right, but she was also the gateway for me to a world of authentic vocal and improvisational music.
I think I wasn't hot enough for them to exploit on that level. I think I wasn't, because I was never skinny enough for them to push it that far. So I was protected by my own version of hotness. Do you know what I mean? By my own spectacularly unique, but you know what I'm saying. And now I've aged out. The whole thing is just so ugly, you know? But yeah, I mean, my fat ass protected me. And that's really no joke, you know? Even though I did, you know, you can look back at the pictures everyone has, you know, I did succumb to the pressure for a while and I lived on Diet Coke and I got really skinny for 5 seconds and it was the most unnatural thing in the world and I was never so unhappy as when I was at the height of all that popularity. That was the most unhappy time of my whole life. As soon as you get to a place like that, it ceases to be about music. At least for me, because I wasn't like an artist and a songwriter and you know what I mean? I'm singing standards. I was a girl singer, so everyone then just descended to control everything I was doing. What is she wearing? What is she saying? Don't do that, don't do this. You can't sing that, but you're all fired. That's how that went. I was never going to be able to have music the way I wanted it if I kept going down that road. I wasn't interested in that. Unfortunately, for my family, they would like to have the extra money I probably would have made. I think they're better off with a happy mom, you know what I mean?
Jane's music was absolutely foundational for me. She taught me tons of standards that I still sing at my own shows to this day. I'm sure I've stolen a few of her licks here and there. On her Instagram a few years ago, she announced that she was giving away a few free lessons. I applied and actually won one. The irony was that she had been my teacher for many years and didn't even know it, but it was a thrill to finally meet her. I was a terrible student, and we mostly just shared stories about the music business. She was very gracious. She even came out to see me perform when I was in LA, and she was kind enough to actually sing a song at my show.
I was honestly a super unhappy kid. I was, the most bullied kid on the bottom of the totem pole. It was really, really bad. Like to a point where like in junior high school, I'd have to like wait in the office before it was safe for me to walk home from school, like stuff like that. It was hard. But I was at music through that time. You know what I mean? So that was amazing. I knew I had this thing that was going to carry me past all of it and be with me when I grew up. But it was difficult. And I also, was a kid with like serious undiagnosed mental illness, stuff like that. So it was a difficult time growing up. But that being said, I was very prepared to go into this business. Do you know what I mean? When my first album came out and everybody, descended like locusts with every criticism possible, I was like, I know what this is like. Try it. It was really hard. But between phase 1 of that stuff and phase 2 of that stuff in my 20s, now like nobody can say anything to me. I'm just like
The part of the interview that really took me aback was Jane's recollection of this absolutely perfect show at the Rainbow Room from 2003. She was gorgeous, she sounded incredible, and of course, there were those lush strings I love. But to hear what the experience was actually like for her was eye-opening.
That day was one of the most scary days of my entire life. I was 24 years old. I was terrified. At that point, I still wasn't good at putting on a show. So I had written out all this pattern, memorized it. I had it I think I had a music stand. This huge orchestra, rehearsal, we had rehearsal only the day of. And then the rehearsal got shot because there was some union problem. And so we ran like half the music. Everybody was angry at everybody. Everybody was screaming at each other backstage. It's like a half an hour before I'm going on. I'm in the makeup chair sobbing. Like my manager and the makeup artist are like screaming at each other. Oh my God, it was insane. I was so scared. I don't even remember singing. I was just like, ah! And then there's something about that DVD that's always bothered me, which is that I feel like the image was like altered to make me look like, I feel like it was like stretched so I would look a little thinner. Like they altered the aspect or something on it. I don't know how that works. But it's the kind of thing that you do in like 2002. And that always bothered me. And man, I remember protesting it then, but didn't have much of a leg to stand on. And now I would just be like, I would never. Don't you dare. It's easy to be beautiful when you're 24 and they bring in the best hair and makeup people in the whole world and slap you in a fancy gown. You know what I mean? It's like I was covered in paint and, you know what I mean? And they were an amazing team. Those two kept me sane in the beginning, hair and makeup folks, because you're alone with them all the time. Do you know what I mean? And so you're crying in the chair and shaking because someone just told you you're hideous and fat and can't sing. And they're the ones that make you feel better. You know what I mean?
Dance with me, I want my arms about you. The charms about you will carry me through to heaven. And my heart beats so that I can hardly speak. And I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're together. When we're together. When we're together. Dancing, dancing.
I don't know. I think I still feel a disconnect. I still feel like I have total imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Like I always joke with people that like I'm like a musical theater performer playing a jazz vocalist or something. I mean, that's not true. I've studied this music since I was born. You know what I mean? I know the history, and I have done the listening and put the time in and understand what I need to understand, but I don't know if I'll ever fully believe in myself. Now that I'm older and just don't care about what anybody thinks about me, now it's really fully coming out. So I just do what I do now. And anybody who wants to judge me can do it. I don't care. I don't care. But, you know, I just don't believe in all these rules of what a singer like me has to be. And I tell my students that too. I just am who I am. And if people want to call it cabaret, that's fine. I don't care what people call it. I sing the Great American Songbook, and it makes me really happy, and I love it. And I try really hard to respect the history of every song that I sing, the people who came before me, who played it, whose shoulders I know I'm standing on. I try to do the best I can, and that's all I can do.
Jane's always been an inspiration to me in that way. I'm in the in-between in my own way too, and it's not easy in an industry that wants to make you fit into a clearly defined box. It's really been enlightening to follow her career for the past 20 years and to watch her growth in music and life. I've seen her in concert 3 times in the past 5 years alone, and each show has been markedly different. I've seen her continually strive to be her most authentic self on stage and off.
Now really the only goal I have is to just be able to keep going for the rest of my life and not run into a wall and be screwed. You know what I mean? Like that's the only goal, is to just maintain. Because this is a wonderful life. I don't need to be rich or famous. In fact, being famous sounds like it would probably suck. Like that doesn't look like a good time anyway. But yeah, I don't need to make a lot of money. I get to sing songs. So if I can just keep singing songs, that's all I need. You know?